Kia ora staff, in this flip video we're going to take a look at using technology to reflect and collect evidence throughout your teaching as inquiry. Learning outcomes for today include understand how to use Google Docs for reflecting on your teaching as inquiry process, become more confident using technology, begin your reflection process, and consider other apps and tools that might be suitable for reflecting. Your success criteria for today includes engaging with the flip video that you're watching right now, taking some time after Thursday's session to explore Google Docs to assist your teaching as inquiry reflections, and to generate your first teaching as inquiry reflection. So just a brief recap on teaching as inquiry. Teaching as inquiry is when teachers inquire into what is most important, what strategies or approaches are most likely to work, and the impact of teaching on students. There are also some key points to consider around teaching as inquiry. Teaching as inquiry is a critical aspect of effective pedagogy as described in the New Zealand curriculum. It is important because teaching strategies work differently for different students. It involves three key parts: the focusing inquiry, the teaching inquiry, and the learning inquiry. It can be used during a single lesson or take more in-depth forms over longer periods of time. So why reflect then? Aero have identified that reasons for reflection in education generally occur on a continuum. At one end of the continuum were teachers who filled in reflective diaries because this was a requirement of their performance management system. At the other end of the continuum were teachers whose disposition to make learning and teaching better saw them observing students closely, constantly monitoring students' responses, and adjusting the programs instantaneously. The latter practices will clearly make the most difference to students' achievement and progress in schools, and teachers utilising this approach are taking up an inquiry habit of mind. As Earl, Timperley and Stewart observe, an inquiry habit of mind is the habit of using inquiry and reflection to think about where you are, where you are going, how you will get there, and then to turn around and rethink the whole process to see how well it is working and make adjustments. Today I want to take a quick look at one tool you can use to make your reflections so that they're pain-free, simple to use and easy to share. It's important to note here that you don't have to use this option. You could achieve the same result using a piece of paper and pencil. The main point of difference being that the method I'm going to demonstrate allows for good collaboration and can be shared with others in an instant. This ability to share with others is a key component of reflection within teaching as inquiry. I'm going to show you how to use Google Docs as a reflection tool. For some of you this will come quite naturally and easily. Others may have to spend a little time practicing. The great thing about Google Docs is that it allows for a considerable amount of information to be incorporated into your reflection. It allows anyone in the world to collaborate at the same time, which could be useful when our teaching as inquiry gets bigger. However, it can be time consuming if you do like to write a lot. There are other video-based options that I really wanted to show you and demonstrate here, but last month YouTube actually dropped the ability to record from webcam, which would have been a really cool and simple way to have created video diaries. So what I'm going to do over the next few minutes is just give you a quick demonstration of how I might start from scratch in creating a reflection in Google Docs. So if you haven't used Google Docs before, I want you to browse to drive.google.com. Now if I'm going too fast or you need to, or you miss something, just pause or go back on the video. From here you're just going to enter your school email address and then log in as you normally would. In my drive I already have a folder set up for teaching as inquiry, so I'm going to browse to that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and select Google Docs, which is going to create a new document for me, and I'm just going to name this test reflection. Okay, so from here I want to create a table. Now this table I'm going to share at the in the subject or the description of the video in YouTube, so you can download this template from there. I guess it'll just, that might be something that you want to use, might not be. You might want to make some adjustments to it. But I'm going to insert a table, and I'm going to make it, how big are we going to go? Let's try that. I'm going to just resize it a little bit. Put date, reflection, discussion, attachments, and next steps. Alright, I might bold these to emphasize them. Okay, so this is basically my template for the reflection process that I'm going to go through. I'm going to date it with today's date. And I'm going to just make a bit of a comment around, I guess, the focus question: what do you know about the student? So this is me doing a little bit of investigation around a student I have selected to do my inquiry on, or an imaginary student. So here I'm really just going to just give a little bit of information, a bit of a reflection. I don't want it to be too long. It doesn't really need to be in depth, it just needs to be something brief that you can put in here and discuss. So I got hold of one of Nathan's assessments from 2015, piece of written work from his level 2 PE class, and I was interested in looking at his ability to think critically and what his current level of thinking, current level of writing look like. I'm quite keen to have a colleague take a look and provide some feedback around that. I'm just really interested to hear what somebody else, maybe within my department or outside a department, would comment on around that piece of work, and whether my, I guess, my thoughts on the writing, whether we've got the same opinions or whether he can contribute something else there. With attachments, I actually want to attach the piece of work that I've looked at as a little bit of evidence. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back into my folder. I already had moved a copy of this assessment into my folder. I'm going to right click on that and hit get link. I'll do that again, right click and go to get link. From there I'm just going to hit Control C, and what that does is that copies that link. So when I go back to that box there, I hit Control V, and I can paste it in there. So if I was to share this or invite any collaborators to this document, they can click through and see that piece of writing that I've put there. Now that could be any attachment. It could be a link to a YouTube video, it could be a link to a website, a document that you found. Anything you want to put in there, you can put in there. And I guess just for next steps, I'm going to put touch base with BW, because I really want him to take a look at the work I've got here and discuss Nathan's work. So that's as easy as it is and as brief as it needs to be. Again, some of those key things that we talk about, the need for it to be regular and accessible. So in terms of accessible, the great thing about Google Docs is that we can invite collaborators or share the document. It can be private, or we can invite editors to it. So to share, it's quite easy. You just hit the share button on the top right, and then you enter a name of somebody you want to share it with. Might be Mr. Simpson, but I'm going to share it with Mr. Wisniewski. In fact, later on I might like to have him be able to add comments or make additions to the reflections here, depending on what I want to achieve with that. So I'm just going to hit send to him so he can edit, and it's shared with him. So it's that easy. That way if somebody needs to see it, I can quickly just share it with them, and I don't have to provide them editing access. They can just have viewing access. So it's about as simple as that. If you do need help, I'm more than willing to help you set up a template for you, or as I mentioned before, that template will be appear in the box below the video, in the description to the video on YouTube. The next couple of images are just examples or further examples of reflections that you could be making as part of your teaching as inquiry. This one here relates to what the next learning steps for the students are. This one here is about how do you know that the students are learning? And finally, this last one is about the evidence or the data that you've collected that demonstrates what you've been doing. Another option that I won't demonstrate but will be worth considering is Blogger. And Blogger is a very common blogging platform, so there's a lot of support available to get you up and running. It's very, very easy to set up, and a cool feature of, I guess, having a real blogging platform is that your colleagues and peers can subscribe to your blog so they're notified every time you add an entry. It can be rather difficult to collaborate on Blogger, which may or may not be an issue for you. The final option that would be worth taking a look at is Google Sites. Now, Google Sites falls within the Google Apps domain, so it is easily accessible with your Rongotai account. Essentially, it allows you to create your own website. Now, because you're creating a website, you have much more freedom to have it appear the way that you want, and it allows you to add many more elements to your reflections. It can also be used for other aspects of teaching which require you to collect evidence. The one catch is that because you're building from scratch, it does have a bit of a steeper learning curve, so that can be a bit of a challenge if you haven't really had experience with that sort of thing before. I just want to reiterate here that these options are not the be-all and end-all. You can do these reflections any way you want. You just need to make sure that 1, they're regular, and 2, they're accessible. If you can tick those 2 off, then you are good to go. So where to from here? First of all, just take some time to digest the content of this video. Then go away and have a think about any questions that haven't been answered for you here. There'll be the opportunity to present these questions to Blair or myself at the start of our professional learning on Thursday. Finally, following tomorrow's session, go away and have a play with a few reflection tools. See what you like and what works for you. Then begin your reflection process. And I guess if you need any help with anything, please don't hesitate to flick me an email, ask me some questions, and if I've got time, I will pop over and give you a hand. Thanks for listening, and I will catch up with all of you tomorrow at Professional Learning. Cheers.